Let's bring in Dr. Tony Agbons, Senior Lecturer at Anglia Ruskin University in London. Dr. Agbons, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you, Joker, for inviting me to your program.
Right. So first off, do you think NATO will have smooth relations with the U.S., under President Donald Trump?
Yeah, thank you. Listening to a lot of the stories you have brought out, and then listening to all the optics and all the sound bites we've all been hearing since the historic phone call between President Trump and President Putin yesterday, is like this whole crisis between Russia and Ukraine, just starting all over again. It's come back more to the front burner. I think there are a lot of issues here. Obviously, the NATO alliance, they are not happy. The European Union, they are not happy. But truth be said, it's high time that a stop be put to this, carnage and bloodbath that has been going on between Russia and Ukraine. So they won't be happy, obviously.
Yeah, it's clear that the present government under President Donald Trump, in the United States, does not support Ukraine's efforts at NATO membership, or is not even bothered whether it's a member or not. We have heard from Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and from President Donald Trump himself about Ukraine's NATO membership, and President Trump has encouraged Ukraine to let go of certain regions. Is the U.S. still an ally of Ukraine?
Yeah, that's a tricky one, and it's going to be the sore point of these negotiations when it eventually begin. For the sake of our, those who will be watching this program, we need to put certain things in context. This crisis between Russia and Ukraine is in two phases. Let's not forget that in February 2014. Russia did annex some territories in Ukraine. We remember Crimea. There were a lot of issues, the bogus referendum and all that took place. And the Ukraine was trying to get their territory back. There have been a lot of issues back and forth on that. But what really shook the entire world was when about 3 years ago, in February 2022, Russia had this what they call the military operation, but which was an all-out aggression against Ukraine, and they actually went into Ukraine, went into Donetsk, Zaporizhzhia, another part of eastern Ukraine, and we've had this crisis we've had. So to say that membership of NATO, to say that some territories will not be given, this is my opinion. I think every issue should be on the table of negotiation so that no side, will feel hard done by. I believe every issue should be discussed. But sincerely speaking, I think we are moving in the right direction. The world is moving in the right direction, that at least the parties can be brought together and everyone discuss. Both Ukraine, Russia, Europe, NATO, the United States of America, everyone needs to come to the negotiating table.
Even if that happens, the most recent developments, it seems like a huge blow to Ukraine and almost negates its defense against Russia, which seems to have the upper hand in this war. Do you think the U.S. president knows that he is indirectly helping Russia?
Yeah, knowing Donald Trump, we all know how he does his things. During his campaign, he made a lot of promises about how he hopes to resolve this war. There are going to be a lot of knockbacks. Nobody should think that this whole negotiation, this bringing of peace between Russia and Ukraine is going to be a walk in the park. To be honest, and just like you have alluded to, Ukraine has suffered more in this crisis. They've been more devastated since this crisis began nearly 3 years ago. So, speaking from the humanitarian angle, you will feel that Ukraine, who have been the one that have been destroyed, will feel, a sense of, being cheated. So that is where the Americans, actually, like Donald Trump have said, using his negotiators and all that, they really need to see how it doesn't look like, just helping an adult to beat a child. That scenario should not come in. Otherwise, there will still be no peace. So I believe nothing, like I said, should be out of the table.
And remind us again, why even NATO cannot take a decision on admitting Ukraine into the group.
Yeah, I think that it's more of a military decision-making issue. There's an article in the NATO alliance treaty that a member nation cannot be attacked. An attack on one is an attack on all, and that will be an all-out third world war. And NATO has been wise in that they didn't just admit Ukraine. I think they admitted Finland and Sweden why this crisis have started, but those ones needed some protection. So, and I believe NATO should keep it that way, because otherwise, if they had admitted Ukraine by now, and with some of the aggression from Russia, then it's like attacking a NATO member. So, what they have done, not bringing Ukraine in, I think is the right decision, and they should keep it so. But whether Ukraine will eventually join the NATO alliance, maybe not in the immediate future. I don't see that happening. And a lot of analysts will also say that, because that really is the crux of this crisis.
Right, and I believe the Russian president, Vladimir Putin, knows this and is playing on this to, make Ukraine weaker than it already is.
Absolutely. Putin knows that, and his fear is just that, Ukraine becoming a member of NATO, then the West will be at his doorstep. He believes that is not going to be, good for Russia. And at the end of it, when you look at all this crisis, it's all about world geopolitical economics. So everyone is trying to protect his own interests. If you look at Donald Trump, the truth of the matter is that he believes that America has spent so much. In your report just now, I was hearing on NATO, look at what they have spent, $485 billion in 2024. By the time we add what they spent in 2023, in 2022, we are talking of going over trillions of dollars. And these are resources that could have been utilized in other aspects of human development and growth. So it's all about national interests. And I believe that with the way things stand, the Russians seem to be having the upper hand.
And how strong is NATO against Russia's European influence?
Very strong, and rightly so. If there's anything that we will also give credit to, is the fact that the NATO alliance have been able to also stand up to Russia during this crisis. The unity of purpose, the way they've all rallied around Ukraine has been very, very commendable. The only thing for some of us analysts and commentators on this issue is that when a crisis like this occurs, the third party should be the one that will bring peace. For some of us, we have not been able to come to terms with the fact that, yes, Russia invaded Ukraine. The third parties, like NATO, the US under Joe Biden, the European Union, they should have all come together, to call for negotiations. In fact, I was reading, a paper recently, and I discovered that Joe Biden, former US president, have not had contact with the Russian president Putin since, just probably a week before this invasion happened in February 2022. That is not good enough. It doesn't show statesmanship, and that is why this crisis have lingered on. With all intent and purpose, despite all the anti-Trump sentiment and pro-Trump sentiment, I believe that time is now for peace to return to Russia, especially Ukraine. Peace needs to return.
Right, and it seems to me that Ukraine, is the biggest loser here. The President Zelenskyy, maybe pride of wanting to show that he can protect his people, and he's the captain of the Ukrainian ship. He's not budging. He is doing all he can to ensure that his people are safe, even though many are dying daily. But at the end of the day, Ukraine is still the biggest loser.
Absolutely. You are absolutely right. Ukraine is the one taking all the bombardment, loss of lives, loss of infrastructure. And at the end of the day, every war that has happened, we are all students of history, usually will end on the negotiating table. I was really pleased yesterday when I saw the response of the Ukrainian president, when he spoke to, he put on his X handle, he spoke with President Donald Trump. And then he also said that Ukraine needs peace. I like that, tune that he was singing, which is great. And let's not deceive ourselves. If this war is not peacefully negotiated, we are going to be talking about Russia-Ukraine war even in the next 10 years. So, and the earlier a stop is put to it, the better. How this is eventually achieved shouldn't really matter. Pride, all parties in this crisis will need to swallow their pride and forge ahead with peace. Because, like it's often said, in conflict resolution, you cannot win it all. So it has to be a win-win for everyone. No loser, no vanquish.
Senior lecturer, Anglia Ruskin University in London, Dr. Tony Agbons. It's a pleasure again having you on the program today.
Thank you very much. It's been my pleasure.